In this episode, I'll be giving my review and reaction to the 2017 movie Shot Caller. Let's call some shots and get right into Shot Caller. I thought Shot Caller was a decently compelling movie. Is it the greatest movie of all time? No. Is it like a terrible movie? No, I think it's pretty solid for what it is, and I think it's an interesting prison movie. I watched Prison Break all 5 seasons, believe it or not, but this is an inside look into gang life in prisons, and I just watched Unlocked season 2, and those are the real prisons. The jail guys get unlocked. This felt like more of like a gang style, how to work your way into a gang, but also there's some thematic stuff there, like you make a simple mistake in your life and your life takes a whole different path, which we'll definitely talk about. The main character it's Nikolay Coster-Waldau, and my man Jon Bernthal. Great cast on this one, really. I feel like everyone contributed some good stuff to this, but yeah, Shot Caller, solid watch. I'd been meaning to watch Shot Caller, right, because it was on Netflix for a really long time. And then, of course, when you go to watch it, it's off Netflix. Had to use some other means to get to it. But I think this is an interesting one for people who like those crime movies, especially if you're into like what goes on in jail and how do people get into gangs in jail and how does that go. I think this is a really insightful watch in that capacity. The movie gets a little bit crazy at the end, I will say, but I digress. I feel like we get to a little bit of a really that happened point, but it creates some iconic moments in the later half of this movie. So let's get into my thoughts and reactions of Shot Caller, starting with the beginning scene. And it's cell 13, which I'm always taking notes in these important beginning scenes of if it'll ever come up again. But cell block 13 or cell 13 doesn't mean anything. And looking through my notes, the first couple notes I have just don't mean anything. I think I was going too hard in my notes, but this is important, right? Money. That's his. We'll call him Money. He is sending a letter to his son saying goodbye and don't follow in my footsteps. And this is very ominous to start the movie. It is a good drawing of like, it's one of those. It is one of those openings where it's intriguing when you're watching the actual opening, but throughout the movie you just like kind of forget that even happened. Well, it does get referenced later on in the movie, but still, I don't know. Like, I don't know. I feel like this wasn't that memorable of a beginning, but it's one of those like, how did we get here type of stories where there is like multiple timelines happening at once. I think there's like three main timelines: him before he goes to prison, him during like his beginning stint in prison, then him now. Which it is cool to see him like how he moves now versus how he moved like when he was just a regular civilian, and how he moved when he was a beginner in the prison system. But we're starting off with this ominous letter to his son. Don't follow in my footsteps. This is goodbye. Is it though? Is it though? I don't know. We'll have to talk about that at the end. Another confusing scene is right at the beginning. A man's dead in his cell. Seems like he was either hung or hung himself. And this just leads to Money being able to leave to go to the train station with directions to a flower shop and get out of jail. I don't know if those events just coincided. Kind of a confusing, we move fast in this movie a lot of times, which I think, it could, if this movie's only 2 hours, 1 minute, I think it could take some benefits from just chilling out for a couple minutes. Let's just roll it back and chill. Like we don't need to be rushing all over the place, but I digress. Man's dead in the cell shop. Basically, the big point of here is that Money gets to leave and he's out on bail. He's out on probation. Directions to a flower shop, which when you get those directions to a flower shop specifically, some fucked up shit's gonna happen. And we learn about this big money deal, or this big arms deal that's gonna happen and take place. That's kind of the center focus of the movie. We'll definitely talk about that more often. But my eyes lit up and I smiled a big smile when I saw Jon Bernthal appear on screen. Super hyped to see him. He's one of my favorite actors of just, let me tell you something. I don't think he hits a let me tell you something in this movie, but I gotta go check out Punisher, The Last Kill. Check out his new TV special just dropped on Disney Plus. I'm late to the game on that. I don't know how I feel about TV specials. I'm not gonna derail that, but Jon Bernthal fit into this role awesome as this like second in command kind of guy who's like, get with the program, kid. I feel like Jon Bernthal's a great actor. He went to Russia to act. That's happening. He's kind of Jon Bernthal. I think his name's Shotgun is kind of his man here as we move in the first half of this movie. And meanwhile, we have the probation officer and he is like poking around and trying to get into a person's house who's a predator, like knock on the door, like, hey, where are you? Where are you? He gets shot through the door. And I don't know if this ever even came up again. Was this like a gang member, or is this just shown to be like, don't be a probation officer who has to make house calls and like with gangs? I didn't really know what the point of that was. I don't think it really is a big part of the story, but this guy takes a bullet and he's back. This guy's back instantly, the probation officer. So I have to say that was another part that I was like, do we need the probation officer's perspective in this? I know he's kind of like the foil to like keep the story going. He's getting information. He's kind of the lead cop, but he's also a probation officer. It's kind of a weird dichotomy of roles for this fella, but I don't know. He gets shot, and he lives, of course, because he's part of the main story. So we get money back at the house party. There's actually bigger schemes happening at this house party than we were even originally aware of. A girl is just offering to, feels like it's like free prostitution. Like you can just bang whoever you want. He's like, hey, he just talks to this girl. This is Cherry or something. And she's just laying there naked and he turns it down. Money's motivated right now. Maybe he's a faithful man. I don't think we ever see him engage in any sexual acts with a man or a woman. I know he's got his wife out there, but weird to see like, this gang culture. And it's like, here's this one, go in the room with her and she's naked and free if you want. He's like, yeah, I'm good. It was just a weird scene to watch. But now it's a shootout instantly at the house party. And we find out this was a scheme to get him shot, to get money shot at the house party. Apparently he's like this big boss man now. It's hard to follow, as I said in the beginning of the movie, but a shootout at the house party, and who's hit but the girl, and she'll be all right. Another thing that doesn't really have a big part of the effect of the movie, but this was an attempted hit on money, and we can't let that go unnoticed. So Money's been out for 24 hours, on probation, by the way, and he's already been in a shootout, been to going to the flower shop. We get the original story of how he ended up in jail, and this is super sad where he lives this happy life. He's got his wife, they're happy every day, making jokes and stuff in the house. He's got the son, he's a young kid at this point. They're going out to dinner, like everything's all good, and then he takes a little bit, he gets that extra bottle, I think, at dinner. I could be wrong on that, but I feel like they ordered another drink when it was clear that they were all kind of buzzing. And drunk driving's real, folks, and this is a sad reality that this event changed his entire trajectory. Like this movie wouldn't even be a thing if he just Ubered home, if they all just Ubered home, if he passed or drank some water, took some time before he drove. I don't need to give you a whole spiel on like drunk driving and how fucked up it is, and that kind of makes you, it's a complicated main character, right? Because he's supposed to be the person we're rooting for in this like prison system, but he's doing fucked up shit along the way, and also he killed somebody from drunk driving. So it's like there's really no redeemable characters in this movie except for his family, who's like trying to get him back in. But that's one of the themes of this movie that's super interesting. Is like, is the way he's doing everything the right way to do it? And that's what I mentioned in my short video and also the beginning of this video. I feel like he had questionable motives. Like, I don't know if this is the right way to do it. But we'll definitely talk about some of the actions he takes. But yeah, essentially, man was killed when he was drunk driving. That's how he initially gets into jail for the manslaughter there. And yeah, don't drive drunk. I don't have to be the one to tell you that. We now have another angle with the probation officer guy. We learn a little bit more about him. He's getting information from somebody. And, my eyes were deceiving me as I see King Botch makes a cameo as one of the clients. Shout out Vine, but I have to say, if you're ever listening to this, King Botch, you were not one of my favorite Viners. So that was really odd to see him make an appearance here, talking to the probation officer guy, but I think that's kind of the doorway to be like, oh, this guy has rats out there for him, and there's a big reveal like halfway through the movie with that. But King Botch in the Big 20, I guess this is like only 4 years removed off Vine. I just remember Vine as being like 2013. I don't know when it actually died, but it kind of makes sense. He transitioned into acting, got into this movie. I think I checked his credits like during this movie. It hasn't been in much. So shout out King Botch, still doing it. That was a really weird cameo. As our man Money enters the prison, he's been warned by his lawyer / confidant that he needs to get in good with people because this could be a really bad experience, especially at the prison. They're at Arizona, by the way, so I think that's actually, is it Arizona or California? I think this is in California, and the Unlocked was in Arizona. Unlocked season 2. It's one of the states out west, right? And the lawyer's like, you got to squat up you got to like figure out what's going on and make sure you're not a target early on. You got to like prove yourself and be like out there. Like you can't just let yourself get bullied, like, because they'll just take advantage of you over and over again. You know, we see this stuff in Prison Break with the young kid who has to like hold Teabag's pocket and stuff. It's true. It's rang true across all prison media. So he has to find his crew, and unfortunately, a lot of the prisons are based off race. Like I just mentioned, Unlocked season 2 came out in 2026 or 2025, and in that show they're all ganged up by race. So this is reality, and you know he's white, so he's got to squat up with the whites to be able to be chilling, to be able to get a pass. And you know Jon Bernthal's like, you don't want to fuck up, bro. Like blah 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 blah. Continuing on back to the other timeline of the present day, he tries to give all of his life savings, $178,000, to his wife, and she doesn't want it. Come on, just take the money. You know, what is it? What could this money possibly hurt you? I guess she knows he's gang affiliated, so that could come back on him. But he's like, it's clean, take it. She doesn't want it, and he keeps talking in these very finality phases, which is pretty sad. You know, he's like, this is gonna be it. Like, take this money, please. And he just knows the rest of his life's gonna be dog shit, being like a fucking gang guy. Which, again, not sure if that's the route I'd take, but it's him. It's what money does. And it makes for an interesting story, but like, I don't know. I feel like it's questionable motives. And the son comes up, I think, in this scene and talks to him, and then he like shuts the door on it. Sad stuff to watch, you know. And I don't think he had to go this way to do it, but it is what it is. Back to the middle timeline of him being in prison, starting it out. Well, I guess there's only really 2 timelines of him being in prison at the beginning, like, and we flash before that of how it happened, and then the later stuff of him actually being in prison and, you know, being a fucking mob boss and shit. So we learned one of the early tasks he had to do was stick a balloon up his ass in the beginning of the movie and take it to the yard to prove something. I guess there's really not much you can do in a prison to prove something like this, but, you know, I'm also... No, I mean, you probably have to do that, right? But yeah, just a very odd request. And then the guy like takes the balloon. He's like, respect. I actually liked the main guy in the first prison, not the beast, but the boss in the first prison who like had the keys or whatever they call it. He was cool. But that's your first task: stick a balloon up your ass. And it's like very odd. Of like they have the outside bathrooms where like everyone can see him. He's got to sneak it. You know, maybe some other things would get snuck through the ass. I don't know. But I go to prisons. So we flash forward to present day. Our man Money decides to follow Shotgun around. You know, Shotgun's been acting a little bit weird, and he got Shotgun as a rat and his girl. Shotgun's real name is Frank, you know, which is ironic. You know, Frank Castle. Not sure what the timelines were in that, but he says, oh, he does say, let me ask you something. He doesn't say, let me tell you something. Let me ask you something, from Jon Bernthal. It's classic. So they leverage him by having his girl, the probation officer, and then he's like, I'll rat for that. And then Money follows him and knows he's ratting. So it's only a matter of time, right? But before that, we see Money get his first kill in prison, shank the guy. You know, he's with his cellmate. They're kind of nervous to do it, but I think this is the point that I think this was shown to us as the point that like Money turns into just being like a complete mob boss and being a complete asshole, and like, well, not asshole, but like, you know, hard and shit. Like he's not fucking around. He's being serious with all this stuff. I don't know. Again, I think this is actually now the scene in the present day where he turns his family away. Tough to watch. It is very tough to watch, and we don't even like. There's not even a lot of context of him and the family. We don't even get to see him talk to it. His son's like watching TV and like 7 years old, and the only really scene we see between them two. But you can tell like they had a good family life, and it all just happened because of one accident and one mistake. And now he's just so tunnel visioned in this like becoming a gang leader that he's turning the family away, and it was just tough to watch. And I still ask, you know, big point of this review, why is he doing it this way? But to each their own, I guess. So in the present day, or in the flashbacks, there's a big prison riot. You know, there's word that the black crew is going to cause a ruckus, or the Mexicans are going to go after the blacks, and the whites have to do something. This is all in the movie. You know, I wish people didn't care that much about race, but it's just the reality of the prison systems apparently. Crazy ride stuff, and he makes a big sacrifice play, going to, stab an extra guy, he actually intercepts a guy trying to stab one of the people in the white crew, and he gets more and more years tacked on. He talks to his wife again and just says, "Forget I exist. This is a terrible story. It's so sad, Poor Money, man." Well, not really. It's so complicated. My feelings about this, because it's sad to watch him talk to his family, but it's also sad to see him choose this path, because I feel like there is that middle ground, but I guess this prison, there just was never a chance. Doing all this stuff, bringing the balloon through your ass, getting your first prison kill, intercepting the riot, saving one of the white people in the riot. He gets "Welcome to the family, son" by Beast, and he gets the keys, which is apparently like a big. That's what I was mentioning before. You get the keys to the place, right? So he gets the keys to his side of the prison, or I think he was in a separate prison from Beast at this time. But now he gets a release and a cell phone, and this is what really starts to trigger him, is when they threaten his family. He's doing all this to get his family safe and make sure that he's okay and they're going to be okay. And when Beast threatens his family, he doesn't fuck with that shit. That triggers him. And I forget if that scene was in the present day, or I think that must have been in the past. Maybe no, that was the present day. I think of him. They're like, "You got to do this arms deal." He's like, "I'm on probation." They're like, "We'll fuck up your family." He's like, "Fuck you," but he still does it, of course. He makes a visit to Shotgun. Knows he's a rat. John Bernthal could have been more in this movie, but he's a rat, so they had to get him. Money kills Rat. Shotgun the rat says that Herman was the one who tried to kill Money. So Herman's this other side of the party on the arms deal. Shotgun had told them about the party. It was intentional. Herman was trying to kill him. So basically everyone's after Money at this point, besides the Beast. But he'll find a way to screw that one up too. Money uses Shotgun's phone to send the coordinates to the cops. Really just going to create this whole cesspool of ATF, the police, Herman's gang, Money's gang, all at this place. There is this kid, Howie, who's like this new up-and-comer who wants to become part of the gang, but he's not validated by the police, so no one knows he's part of the gang, and he's able to smuggle 2,000 guns from Vietnam or something to coordinate this arms deal. But we see our man Money actually helps him out, even though Howie lied about the amount of money, or the amount of guns. He's like, jump out of the truck right now. So we see Money at least having some compassion for him. Well, Money does have compassion for the people in this movie who aren't validated and stuff, like his family and this kid Howie. But he just kind of wants to take that on everyone else. Howie did lie about the amount of guns. It's 2,000, not 1,000, which is just a fun little bonus part at the end of the movie. Really doesn't really play a big part of it, but Howie gets to be out alive. The police show up. They get everyone and everything, and Money turns down their offer to get him in the free world, to implicate other people, say what was going on and stuff. He truly gets validated now as part of the gang after killing some insane. This is the scene that I think, a lot of people probably, looking back on this, I talked to my dad about this movie. He was talking about the scenes with the Beast, right? And this scene at the end is just insanity. This is when it's all right, he's already doing all this fucking crazy shit, but now he's going to go this ballistic, it's crazy. So he sneaks some stuff through his ass, including a key, to get out of. There's little. I did like the visuals of those boxes that they're in, physical boxes outside, and so he's able to get a key, pulls the gun on the cop, throws the cops to the side. They brawl, and he kills the Beast, which was a crazy scene. And he leverages the cop, and now he's got the keys to the entire place, the big place. Family's safe. The Beast was threatening his family. This was it. The Beast knew something was up with him because, the arms deal went awry, and he was basically a point man on that, so something had to give. But with the corrupt cop who was now under the Beast, he now uses that cop to say, I got the keys to this place, and now he knows his family is safe. And yeah, he gives up the extra guns as well, which, like I mentioned, was kind of just a bonus part. His son says he'll protect his mom and forgive him, and it's one of those sad scenes. Kind of reminded me of Sicario at the end, where the mom's watching the son play soccer, and the son's just playing soccer, writes a letter back, says he'll protect her, and that he has forgiven him, which is unfortunate that it had to go this way. I don't know why it had to go this way. Just do your time, do your year. Don't intercept the guy in the gang war. I don't think anyone would have seen that at the riot. That's probably the turning point, but it is what it is. overall, this was a crazy ride. Some stuff that's just like too insane, questionable motives from the main character. I'm gonna give this one a 7.9. There were some fun moments, and this is captivating throughout, but I can't vibe with what Money was trying to accomplish, man. I don't think he was really destined to this life that he was living, so it's hard to be like super compassionate towards his character. But there were some standout scenes, and there was a lot of fun stuff to happen in this movie. Great cast, so kind of a pretty solid movie. 7.9 is where we're gonna go for Shot Caller. Where does this movie relate to the other movies reviewed so far on the Dubcast? This is number 42 of 107 movies, tying Bullet Train, Blade Runner 2049, John Wick Chapter 4, 3:10 to Yuma, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. I would take this movie over 3:10 to Yuma and Mr. and Mrs. Smith, but would prefer the rest, so it kind of falls in the middle of those 7.9s. Obviously, splitting hairs, all 7.9s there. This does lose out to Training Day, which I give a 9.1, beats out The Guilty, 7.7, Good Time, 7.6, and Manhunter, 6.7. All 5 of those crime thrillers, so this is now the second best crime thriller on the channel. This does lose out to Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, 8.5, Lake Bell in both of those movies, the new low on the Lake Bell movies. This does lose out to Wind River, 9.3, Sicario, 8.4, and beats out The Amateur, 7.8. Jon Bernthal in all 4 of those movies. I do have like an emotional connection to all 4 of these movies, because they're Jon Bernthal's in them. I love Jon Bernthal. This also loses out to Sicario, like I mentioned before, Jeffrey Donovan in both those movies, and then also beats out The Amateur, like I mentioned before, Holt McCulkey in both of those movies. So there you go on the comparison, and that's where we'll leave it for Shot Caller. So what do you guys think of Shot Caller? Am I too low? Am I too high? I think I actually have a really good score on Shot Caller. Like, I don't know, I feel like it just got too fucking crazy at the end for me to give anything higher. But there you go on Shot Caller. Great cast, good stuff. So what do you think? Let me know down below in the comments. Coming up in the Dubcast, covering the NBA playoffs. By the time this video comes out, we did a stream Tuesday night, second round and third round for the NBA playoffs, covering the UFC numbered events. We got the White House card coming up. Conor McGregor is back, and TV show stuff. We have House of the Dragon, Survivor 50 finale just came out. Check out those reviews. Silo, other stuff. Maybe we'll do some short-term content for that. Walking Dead, Dead City, Ted Lasso, Quarterback season 3. And then movies, the movies will keep flowing. Couldn't tell you what the next movie review will be. Oh, other TV show stuff. I just finished Mad Men, so we'll have a Mad Men character tier list. I'll rank the seasons in a short. Lots of stuff happening in the Dubcast. Make sure to subscribe, like, comment, dislike, do what you got to do. And as always, be easy, y'all.